Hey, I'm Jason with ArtSpeak Creative, and I am here with two of my good friends, Andrew Arrol, who you've seen on calls with me. He's a part of the ArtSpeak Creative team.
Hey.
He's also a part of Don Champion's team. We got Don Champion on the ArtSpeak call here.
Hey, Jason.
How you guys doing today?
We're doing great. Good to see you.
Hey, thanks for jumping on a call with me. Been wanting to connect for a long time. Love following along. Love that Andrew is there helping you guys out at Highmark and your church plant. Tell me just real quick, how long have you been up to it? Where are you? Just give me 30-second or no limits. I don't care. But give me the nutshell. What is Highmark? What is a Highmark Church?
Yeah, so Highmark Church was just the dream that God dropped in my wife and I's heart after, 16 years of ministry experience and serving at a great church in Minneapolis for 6 years to launch a brand new church. We're in Fishers, Indiana, is where we're located. And we moved here in June of 2018, launched the church in January of 2019. So the church is just about a year and a half old, a little over a year and a half old, coming up on 2 years in a few months. But so that's the quick story of kind of a little bit of background for us.
Yeah, well, really the background, just a small church up there in Minneapolis, a great one, right? River Valley Church.
Yeah.
And then you were, pun intended, the champion of the River Valley Network. You were the River Valley Network Church Director. I don't know. I'm butchering your title.
Yeah.
But that has to be, can you explain? There's probably some church planters or some people out there praying about going into church planting. They're on staff somewhere great. Man, you went from very established rock and roll worship. I mean, and you were everywhere. You were buying barbecue for us at conventions, and and then now you're planting a church in Fishers, Indiana. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean that is a big change or a big challenge, I guess, going from a context like that to planting from the ground up. But I will say that my experience at River Valley had very pioneering and entrepreneurial experience in what I did there. I was able to launch a couple huge ministry endeavors and areas, and doing that gained a tremendous amount of experience that I feel like has helped me navigate this season I'm in right now. But I would say it's just like it's like magnified 1,000,000% from what I was doing. It's like, man, it's so much harder. The hill that you have to climb is so much harder when you're on it on your own. You don't have the backing of a large church and maybe the funding of it as well.
A little different.
Slightly different. So,
well, and then tell me though that there must be a story there. You landed on the ground, you said in June, and then you launched in January. That's a ready, set, go kind of timeline.
Yeah, it is. It was a 6-month kind of runway that we gave ourselves to launch the church. We did have connections to this area, so we were moving from Minneapolis to Indianapolis, and Indy area here is where my wife is from. So we had some family connections and friends. And when we moved here, we just started shoulder tapping as many people as we could, building new connections, and we were like, okay, let's go for it. And really, we just started holding interest parties and connect events and having coffee meetings and doing everything that we were told to do and stuff that we weren't told to do to just see if, who we could get together in that time frame. And we had about 70 people by the time that we were ready to hold our first public service that were saying, hey, we're in, we'll help Highmark Church get off the ground.
Cool.
Wow. Okay, tell me about that. You had said you had about 70 people. Was that what it was like when you first launched? Give me the numbers. I know no one wants to ask that, and we're gonna judge you accordingly. But just give it to us.
Well, hey, launch Sunday was the biggest our church has ever been, and and we'll keep working back towards that number. But we had over 300 people at our launch Sunday. It took a few weeks in church planning world. They say, hey, you're gonna see about half of that attend your church, and it took probably we too were like, we broke the trend, we broke the percentage, we're better. But it just took a few weeks for us to really whittle down and get to the people that were like, hey, this is our church home. And so probably about 8 weeks later, we were about half that. And then obviously the whole world has changed. And even in, a year in, we celebrated our 1 year last January, and then just a few weeks later, COVID happens and Corona, and here we are. So
we should make a bumper sticker. COVID happens.
Yeah. Or I survived it, maybe not yet.
Yeah. I love, just going for it. I love connecting. I wish when they told me, when I planted, they said within the first 3 months, you'll be probably running half.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting it, but we hit it at week 3. So I felt like, the bottom's falling out. I wish they would have told me week 3. So you felt that 8 weeks that you had broken the curve,
yeah.
Which is cool. But so, one time we were hanging out, I guess it was a little over a year ago, in Indianapolis there, you introduced me to the Eagle, which is some fantastic fried chicken.
All right.
Yeah.
Andrew
knows.
Maybe that's your secret.
There. Yeah, that's my secret.
It's like got some pepper honey or something that you dip it in. It's good,
man.
Right?
Habanero honey and the fried chicken's amazing. So it's very comfort food. Anyone watching, if you're in Indy, go to the Eagle, write it down. That's the spot to hit. So
horseradish mashed potatoes.
Hey, we were talking there about some tactics that you had learned with launching the River Valley Network and how you had to connect with pastors and leaders and set up some email nurture, right? Where you were just adding value to pastors and asking them to connect and showing how you could add more, and that how you took that same approach to church planting. It wasn't just about paid advertising, but you were grabbing email addresses somehow. I'd love to know how, and then also nurturing them and some of the results from that. I was fascinated by that because I think it's something that others could learn from.
Yeah. And I feel like we're still testing and we're working on that, refining that. But, in the business world or the retail world, you go to a store and they want to grab your email, your phone number, and they want some way to follow up with you. And everyone has like the junk email address they maybe give out, at the store. But, you get a little more credit as a church. People aren't going to give you their bad email. They're like, they're going to connect with you. So what we realized is we can start the conversation even before someone ever walks through the door at Highmark Church. We can do it with someone that's maybe interested. So we started building connections using social media, asking people to submit a form and just get connected. We then would drop them into a nurture campaign where automatically we would just start a conversation with them. And that was the most valuable thing. It was that we were able to really kind of introduce them to who we are and talk about what we're doing with Highmark Church, and then allow them to follow up a little bit. And we, based on kind of some of their interaction, we would kind of steer them down a path and connect with them in other ways, or point them to other options or things they could be a part of with the church and stuff.
It's cool.
So good. Well, man, first birthday and then COVID for the church. Tell me, what is church, man? What is Highmark Church in this pandemic right now? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, I would say we kind of went into this knowing when this all first happened, I just sat around a table with our team as we were planning and okay, we got to make a huge adjustment. We got to make a lot of changes, and we have to introduce things that as a church plant, we hadn't crossed the line yet to do. We hadn't, had all of our own video equipment and prepared to do online streaming and services and things like that. And I still think maybe sometimes we're not ready or we're not quite there. But you know what? The world just forced us into that. Our team rose to the occasion. I think it fast forwarded a lot of things that maybe we thought we would have done in year 2 or 3 or beyond, but we had to do them because you had to react. And so we knew that it was going to be several weeks. It obviously turned out to be much longer than that. We are in a rented school that previously we had rented, that we hosted services in. That school became not an option. It's out of your hands. Even well into the summer, we were not able to rent the school as they stayed closed. So we had to sort and figure out another venue. And we ended up in an event center in a hotel, which is working out to be fantastic. Yeah. It's a great space. and it's actually working better than the school. And so we really like it. They weren't open to us renting this before we launched the church. We actually had a conversation because the facility is only 2 years old. So it is beautiful. It's great. And they weren't open to us renting before, but a lot of their business has gone out the door. And suddenly when we engaged and had a conversation with them, they were like, yeah, we would love to have you in every single week. And they were excited about it. And, we're portable, so we're setting up and tearing down. And even after a couple weeks, they're like, hey, we don't have any events going this week or that week, so you're welcome to leave your equipment up. And let me tell you, that is amazing. And such a
portable church, that's like heaven, man.
Yeah.
That's a miracle.
I would say like as we started to re-engage and relaunch services in August, we finally, got the new venue figured out. Then I think you start to experience the lag of what has just taken place in our world and where people are at, that there's like struggles that people have walked through. There's things emotionally and spiritually that they're not like, in the best place right now. And I would say in the past 8 weeks, we've felt that more than we did early. It's like online, you're at a distance, you don't have the proximity and you don't exactly know where everyone is at. And then as you're re-engaging, you're getting closer to people again. You're like, man, there's a challenge. And I think for us, we went into this even knowing that such a long break, that it wasn't going to be us just regathering. I know a lot of churches have been able to use that term. And I told our team, we're not looking at it like that. We are relaunching this church. And throughout the process, I've come back to that and I've been depressed about that, but I've also been excited about it, but I've also been frustrated by it, but I've also been like, because we're realizing that we basically, the past year of us doing church, it's almost like been wiped out and we're restarting. And now I would say the getting the engine up to speed and getting things to the next level has come a lot quicker this time because of the core we already had assembled. But, we've had people transition away from the church and stop going to church altogether, people that aren't comfortable coming back. And so that's just the reality I think probably every church and pastor is facing right now.
Yeah, I think, man, you nailed it. I wonder if there's not at least one person that's tuning into this that might have had the epiphany that, maybe that place that turned me down before is now open to a conversation. I think that alone could make this call worthwhile. Well, that's fascinating.
And I feel like it's a great opportunity for church planners to rethink church, rethink the space that they're meeting in or the frequency they're meeting in. And so I think there's a great opportunity in our community, which is fast growing. Pre-COVID, there was virtually no commercial space available. Anything that was available would not fit what we would need for a church. And now I'm just seeing the listings and the amount of space growing on that list, just as a shift in businesses saying, we're not going to, rent that space anymore, lease that space, and they're going virtual. And so that's a great opportunity even for that next step for a church plant.
Well, I love that. And that's an ongoing conversation with me and as many people as I can get to talk to me is about rethinking church. What does that look like? So I love that you guys are doing it right there on the ground and right at the center of that. You mentioned some people transition off, but I know as people have transitioned on. When we had Chicken in Indianapolis, you said, hey, you should talk to my friend Andrew. He's thinking about moving here, and now he's such a integral part of what we do at ArtSpeak, helping people reach more people. Love having him on the team. His wife as well, Shelby, doing a fantastic job with our clients. We got a few more that we're talking to about bringing on. But you, my friend, every time I go on social media, somebody else I know, some other rock star in the country is moving to Fishers to help the champion. So, and Highmark, tell me, what are you doing, man? What lies are you telling these people to get them to move there?
Well, you just say there's a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow and just
that's
keep
it,
following
yeah.
it. But
There's not. Or,
no. Andrew's like, wait, hold on. What? Like I can't explain it necessarily other than like God has put a dream in our heart. We've just kept being persistent and pursuing that. I would say what we did realize in the timeline that we planted, the people that were a part of our team at the very beginning, we had some transition from our staff team within the first 6 months off the team. Those things left me and my wife, we felt like we should have built a core staff team larger than we did whenever we launched the church for what we were trying to do, our vision is. And so that really over a year ago set me on this like journey to just start having more what if questions and conversations with people and talking about where they're at in ministry, what they're doing. What if this happened? And I remember even with Andrew and Shelby having a what if conversation with them and like, would this be, and I'm not trying to coerce them to come or like, and we just kind of had multiple conversations like that and started talking about that. And another one of our staff members, the same thing as well. We had a what if conversation over a year ago that is what led us to, him joining our team as well. And God has just lined those people up to come for this season. And I think one of the best things that in the way that I lead is like, hey, I want to empower the people where they're gifted with what they're doing and be able to really let them, flourish in what they have. And so I'm like, Andrew has a tremendous talent. Shelby brings a tremendous talent to our team. And we just want them to be able to run and experience. And they, obviously for you, have their hands full, but they're able to kind of come alongside the church and really help us as well.
Yeah, I'd say too, because obviously you had these conversations with me, and here I am serving here, and even with the other example you're saying, because I hear church planners asking like, oh, how do I build my team? You get that phone call where it's like, oh, I can't come down there anymore. I think part of it is like you're saying, like you kind of notice like, oh, it was a year conversation. It wasn't like, hey, like next month you want to come move your whole life here. So I think it's like you had those existing relationships that you built into, and then also being willing to be listening for God's voice and be like, hey, do you think God might want to do this in your life? And that you might want to be a part of what God's doing here.
Yeah. And I would agree with Andrew. It's like a lot of times we want that like quick, like, hey, I'm going to call this person up and they're going to change their whole life and they're going to come. But Andrew and Shelby and we have tens of, I don't know, how long have we known each other?
Yeah, something like that.
Like, I don't know, a long time.
11,
We have a lot of history. So there was relational equity. And I would say that's a big thing. And Jamie and I, my wife and I, we've always led ministry in that way where we're doing life with people. We're invested in them as they're invested in us and invested in the church. And so, we led that way, pastored that way in youth ministry roles and church roles we held in other spots of the church. And so then when God kind of brings people in transition, and it was just that what if conversation, and it was a process.
Yeah.
And I would say like there's also, I think, a point and a place where you have to say, hey, it is going to be a step of faith. Like I know like moving here and being a part of this we're in our infancy. We're in this early days of it. So it is a faith step. So you can't take that out of the equation when you're talking to someone about planting a church and joining a team. And it's like, listen, we've taken the faith step and we've moved here and left, like a great role and church that we love and stepped into something that God's called us to and a dream that he's put in our heart. So don't discount the step of faith that sometimes you have to encourage people to take as they hear from God, and you let them figure that out as well.
Yeah. But then the difference is like, you're not coercing anyone. You're just like affirming what God might be calling them to.
Exactly.
And the other cool thing too that you talked about was you let us flourish like where our gifting is. So it's not like, hey, come down here and stack chairs for my church plant, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, come down and like lean into what God's already doing in your life. So for me, like that's track, because it's like I want to follow what God's asking me to do in my life, and being able to do that for a local church community is life-giving for me, and I know it'll be life-giving for others.
Yeah. But this guy stacks chairs awesome, let me tell you.
Yeah, well, I got a lot of experience. So.
It was one of the requirements. So, it wasn't only what you'll do.
Well, yeah, when we had the conversation, we also like said, upload a video of you stacking chairs. We need to see how quickly you could do it. So
good form.
No.
Well, hey, tell me this, and maybe either one of you or both even could answer this. Andrew, having just kind of hit the ground there in the last few months and helping out the church plant, I'm sure others that are watching are, coming on staff somewhere or checking things out and wondering what a transition could look like. Don, you mentioned rethinking church. What are some ways that you see Highmark right now rethinking, and it doesn't have to be, the church at large, but even just your own expression? What are some, innovating, you're creating, or just, hey, we thought we would do this then, but now we're going to do this instead? What are some ways, even just simple ones, that you're rethinking church right now?
Well, I mean, I think there's the things that you can, naturally what's happened is created this higher focus of online church experience. And so I know everyone's trying to improve that. They're trying to think through that. I think that our approach is, I'm not throwing out the weekend gathering and saying that that's irrelevant or that's not going to be part of our strategy. I think that's always a part. It might look different for your context and the church that you have and what your vision is for your church. But I think we have to get better at the community aspect. And actually, I think that's exactly what younger generations are looking for. They're not looking for more online. They're looking for the micro connect. They're looking for the niche place that they fit in the church. And so one of the things that's happened for us during this season is we've had people that have come through maybe an online connection that have been a part of an online life group then, and have, God has worked in their life through that. And now they've actually shown up at our Sunday morning gathering. So the connection point wasn't the Sunday morning gathering. So I think the thing that we're processing, going to continue to try to figure out, going to try to refine is, how do we connect people to the church long before they ever show up on a Sunday morning, and have them connected in community? Because then it's like, it's just so much more natural, and it's a celebration of what God is doing in our church. And we're not trying to run the hamster wheel of let's get people to church. Let's get people to church. Let's get them to Sunday. And we're trying to just purely market it. Let's let it be a groundswell as we're building community and we're developing people. So that's really kind of my heart. We've done things like, we're working really actively right now of creating an online growth track experience for people, that it's a work at your own pace. Like, we did it up front early where it was like Zoom, everyone jump on Zoom at this time. It was terrible. Like, it just didn't work well. But we're going back, and now we're like, let's refine it. Let's create video segments where people at their own pace can work through. We can help develop their next step for them at Highmark. And so just creating more access and options to all of those things. And I don't know if Andrew has anything to add of where you see, where we could be going to.
Yeah, I mean, it's something like at ArtSpeak and with you, and pretty much I talk about it all the time, is like using social and using online to be the church, not just like, hey, join us, come to our Sunday gathering, which I found, really attractive and cool about Highmark, is that like, that's something that we value. Mm-hmm. So using like email nurture to nurture someone's faith. Yeah. Like, it's like, what? It's like businesses can use it to sell stuff. Like, let's use it to develop people's faith and to prompt spiritual practice and what we want people to do. Yep. So just leaning into that more and more, letting it be something that develops someone personally and with the community. And then even using just tools like Facebook ads to get them into that funnel that brings them a step closer. So thinking about those faith steps, like, someone walked into your building, you wouldn't be like, hey, what's your deepest, darkest sin? Like, like tell me now. So you can't just like jump there on social, or you can't just like expect someone to show up on a Sunday and just like God works in a moment for sure. But it's like you bring them down that path of discipleship, whether in person, but then also using online tools.
Yeah. And I would say that continues like all the way into your discipleship process as well.
Yeah.
One of the things that we probably made a mistake on early on is like when people came to visit Highmark, we got a welcome email, hey, connect with us on social media. And then it was like maybe a day later, they got another email. It's like, now you ready for your next step and jump into growth track. And I like kind of took myself out of like being the pastor of the church for a moment and put myself in like, if I showed up the first time, it's like we're trying to like move people too quickly to that step. So just kind of having the right breathing room in that conversation, whether they're, a non-attender, someone you're engaging with in the community versus like someone that's, has attended and now you're trying to have them take their next step. I think there's a appropriate pace to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for your time. I just want to give a shout out to anyone who wants to connect with Pastor Don Champion of Highmark Church. I mean, how can this lose? This can't lose. This is a winning thing here. At Don C Champion, though, if you want to follow Don, I highly recommend it. Good family stuff, good church insights. Love following Don on Instagram, Facebook, at Highmark Church also. So connect with both of them. And thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part. Don, Andrew, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason. Great combo.